The river did not look different after Toad left. That, more than anything else, made the waiting harder. Morning arrived in the usual way. Light slipped through branches. Mist lifted slowly from the water, as if the river were revealing itself only when it felt ready. Mole woke early. He did not know why. Nothing had disturbed him. Yet sleep had loosened its hold before he had finished resting. He stepped outside and stood still, listening. The river was there, steady and familiar, but something about its sound felt more distant than before, as though it were speaking to someone else now. Rat joined him without a word, carrying 2 cups of tea. He handed one to Mole and sat beside him on the bank. They drank quietly. Waiting, Mole realized, was not the absence of action, it was its own kind of movement. Slow and internal, reshaping thoughts without asking permission. "Do you think he'll come back?" Mole asked at last. Rat did not answer immediately. He watched the water slide past a stone near the edge, curling briefly, then continuing on. "I think," he said carefully, "that something has already come back. It just isn't visible yet." Mole frowned, not because he disagreed, but because he understood just enough for the idea to feel heavy. Badger arrived later than usual. His steps were deliberate, each one placed, as though the ground itself were part of the conversation. "He's reached it," Badger said simply. "Reached what?" Mole asked. Badger looked toward the river, then away, toward the path Toad had taken. "The place where speed stops helping," he replied. They sat together then, 3 figures held in a quiet triangle, the river forming its fourth side. Time behaved strangely. Moments stretched, then folded back on themselves. No one checked the sky. No one counted hours. The world, it seemed, was allowing them to feel what usually passed unnoticed. Mole found himself thinking, not of Toad, but of his own tunnels, how safe they had once felt, how narrow they now seemed when imagined from above. He wondered briefly whether change always required distance, or whether it sometimes arrived simply by staying still long enough to notice discomfort. Rat shifted beside him. "Whatever happens," he said quietly, "it won't return to how it was." Badger nodded. "That's not punishment," he added. "It's direction." The river moved on, unchanged in appearance, yet carrying something new beneath its surface. And though no one said it aloud, they all felt it. The choice had already passed. What remained was learning how to stand in the shape it left behind. By midday, the waiting had changed its texture. It was no longer empty. It had weight. Mole felt it while sweeping, the broom moving more slowly, not because the floor was dirty, but because each stroke seemed to ask whether it mattered. He stopped and leaned against the wall, listening to the faint sounds from above. The river could not be heard clearly from this depth, yet its presence pressed down through soil and stone, steady and unavoidable. Above ground, Rat paced the bank. He did not hurry. Hurrying would have suggested there was somewhere to arrive. Instead, he walked in short, measured lines, turning back before reaching the places that still remembered Toad's footsteps. Badger watched him once, then said nothing. Some realizations, he knew, needed space more than guidance. When Mole returned to the surface, the light had shifted again. Clouds moved slowly, as if negotiating with the sky, rather than passing through it. "Nothing's happened," Mole said. Rat looked at him. "That's not true," he replied. "Nothing's finished." The distinction lingered between them, uncomfortable and precise. They sat together on the grass, their shoulders close, but not touching. Mole realized that before Toad left, silence had always felt temporary, a pause between explanations. Now it felt intentional, as though the world were waiting to see whether they would rush to fill it. I keep thinking, Mole said slowly, that if we do the right things in the right order, it might balance out. Rat smiled faintly, but there was no humor in it. That's how we comfort ourselves, he said. We pretend sequence can replace choice. Badger's voice came from behind them. Order, he said, is what we build after we accept that control has already passed. Mole absorbed this quietly. It did not frighten him, but it unsettled something familiar. He had always believed that stability was a place, something you could return to if you remembered the way. Now it felt more like a posture, something you learned to hold, even while the ground shifted. The river, unseen but present, marked time without concern. It did not pause for clarity. It did not reverse for comfort. Rat stood at last. If he comes back, he said, he won't be the same. Mole nodded. And if he doesn't, he added, neither will we. Badger looked toward the path again, his expression unreadable. Either way, he said, this place will remember. A breeze moved through the grass, lifting, then settling. For a brief moment, everything aligned. Sound, light, breath. Then it passed, and the waiting, now fully awake, continued. Late afternoon settled without ceremony. The light thinned, not into evening yet, but into something undecided, as if the day itself were pausing to see what would be required of it. Mole was the first to notice that the river sounded different, not louder, not faster. More deliberate. He stood at the edge of the bank, head slightly tilted, listening for something he could name. Rat joined him. You hear it too, Rat said. It was not a question. Badger remained a few steps back, watching both of them as though the distance itself were part of the moment. The river moved on, carrying the usual things, leaves, light, reflections, but beneath it, something seemed to press forward, insistent, without urgency. It hasn't changed, Mole said slowly, and yet, Rat nodded. Yes, he said, that they did not speak again for a while. Waiting had taught them how to exist without filling space, how to let time pass without demanding explanation. That was why they noticed the sound of footsteps immediately. They were not hurried. They were not cautious. They belonged. A figure emerged from the path, older than the men who had come before, moving with the quiet confidence of someone who did not expect resistance. He stopped when he saw them, not surprised, only briefly assessing. You're the ones by the river, he said. Rat inclined his head. Yes. The man nodded once, as if that confirmed something already decided. I thought so. He did not sit, he did not remove his coat. I won't stay long, he said. That would make this feel like a conversation. Badger stepped forward slightly. Then say what you came to say, he replied. The man looked at him, measuring the weight of the words before allowing them to land. The work has begun, he said. The sentence did not rise, it did not fall, it settled. Mole felt it first in his chest, a tightening that arrived before understanding. Work? Rat asked. The man nodded. Downstream, he said, where the bank bends hard enough to justify it. Badger's expression did not change, but something in his posture did. Justify what? He asked. The man's mouth curved briefly, not into a smile, but into something practiced. Intervention, he said. No one spoke. The river filled the silence, unbothered, moving as it always had. You'll need permission, Rat said finally. The man shrugged. Eventually, he replied, for now, there is momentum. Mole found his voice. And Toad? He asked. The man glanced at him, curious rather than dismissive. He was seen, he said, near the site. talking quickly, listening poorly, that somehow hurt more than certainty would have. Badger closed his eyes briefly, then opened them again when he asked, "This morning," the man replied. Before the light fully settled, he turned then as though the exchange had reached its natural limit. "I thought you should know," he added. "Waiting works best when nothing else is moving." With that he left. The path swallowed him, without comment. For a long moment, no one moved. The river continued, steady, unashamed. Mole felt something shift inside him, not fear, but a narrowing of options. "They've started," he said quietly. Rat exhaled. Yes. Badger looked downstream, toward the place none of them could see. "Waiting," he said, "has ended." The words were not dramatic. They did not demand action. But they changed the shape of the day. As the light thinned further, the river kept moving, carrying with it a truth none of them could ignore. Some choices do not ask whether you are ready. They simply begin to move the world around you, and whether they followed or intervened or stood aside, the river would remember what they did next.